G'day, Nick Muller here. Today I'm going to have a little rant about the upper limit problem. Okay, so first question is, why would I talk about the upper limit problem and what is the upper limit problem exactly? And the thing is, typically when I'm working with a company, I talk to them about numbers and strategic planning and call cycles and all the concrete stuff that they can get their head around, but what happens is that I don't typically get to address, or I don't make obvious anyway, is the issue of the upper limit problem, or resolving the issue of the upper limit problem. So when you're growing a company, essentially you're always at the top of your upper limit. Okay, so there's a book that's been written by a guy called Gay Hendricks. It's called The Big Leap, and Gay Hendricks really knows his stuff. He used to be an advisor for Michael Dell and of Dell Computers, and has worked with some really accomplished people, successful people, and so he really knows his stuff. And recently I read his book The Big Leap and got to thinking about my clients and how the upper limit problem affects them, and so I started doing a little bit of work on it. I don't typically jump into psychology too much, but sometimes it's necessary. And so there are 4 components to the upper limit, okay, and they're actually based on our upbringing and our ecosystem, and a lot of it's family based. So funnily enough, if you change something in the way you're being, or the way you're operating at a being level, the level of thinking, if you change it in one place, you actually change it, it has an effect on your whole world, okay? So including your business. So if you want to make more money, essentially, and get a better return on your effort, you actually have to resolve some of your upper limit, or not some of it, all of your upper limit problem. So we talk about self-sabotaging, and people don't really know what that means, or where do I start to stop self-sabotaging. Like, if I knew what I was sabotaging, I would have already stopped doing it, wouldn't I? You know, so the thing about self-sabotage is they're invisible, and you don't realise the impact on the world around you, or your world, until after you've self-sabotaged. So how do you resolve that? And the book The Big Leap, dealing with the upper limit problem, it begins to address it, okay? So, well, it actually addresses it quite well. And so I've been using a bit of this material, and it's really effective, okay? So the first rule of the upper limit problem is that, or the first component is that we actually feel like we're a burden to the people around us. So if we're successful, so what the upper limit problem says is that you actually self-sabotage because you're successful. So the more successful you get, the more you're going to subconsciously try and self-sabotage and get back to the comfort zone where you feel safe. Okay, makes sense, but it's not much fun when you're trying to be successful and go forward, and you've got a mission to accomplish. Alright, so the first component is that you feel like a burden to your friends, family, and all the people that you'll potentially leave behind. Okay, the next component is that you feel like you're fundamentally flawed. So fundamentally there's something wrong with me, and it doesn't really matter what happens, there's something wrong with me anyway, so it's pointless. Everything's pointless. And this is where hopelessness creeps in. So we're a burden, and essentially we're fundamentally flawed anyway, so what's the point? The third component is that succeeding means disloyalty. Okay, so if I'm successful, somehow or another, I'm actually being disloyal to the people that I'm leaving behind, you know. it would be disloyal for me not to be where everybody else is. Fundamentally, it's actually a tall poppy syndrome, and us in New Zealand, like Australia, and not as much as in Australia, because Australians like to talk about themselves probably a bit more than we do. We're quite reserved, and tall poppy syndrome is alive and well in New Zealand. Well, anyway, it's part of the upper limit problem, so it's alive and well, all right. And the fourth component is genius. Our genius or our brilliance will shine too brightly. Okay, so we may have had messages from our parents or from adults during our childhood where they've or subtle messages where the underlying tone was not to shine too brightly or not to outshine your brothers or your siblings or whatever. So brilliant kids are quite extroverted, or not extroverted, but their genius shines, and over the course of our lifetime we're asked to reduce the amount of light that our genius is shining. So those are the four components. Burden. Succeeding means disloyalty. Sorry, we're fundamentally flawed. Succeeding means disloyalty, and our genius or our brilliance will shine too brightly. So if we can begin to learn how to resolve one of the four components, or all of those components, then we will be able to transcend our upper limit, and growth and success is a fairly natural consequence. Look forward to talking to you soon. Cheers.